So next up, we have Silvio Pupo. He's CEO of Logos Capital Group. Logos is a globally focused impact merchant bank, catalyzing solutions for the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Good to see you again, Silvio. Over to you.
Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it. Good to see you too, Cooney. And thanks, Peter and the rest of the team for putting on this great event and inviting me again. Have a couple of things going on. Thanks for having me here. I mean, one of the things that we're working on, Cooney, and one of the last things that we talked about in Christine, we definitely have some overlap to chat about. We're talking about basically a methodology on top-down and bottom-up investing, which is a bit of our approach in terms of how we're really looking to create systematic impact and systems change. And so we got into finance to begin with just because of that, right? To be able to create the systems change. To give you an example, I want to piggyback off of something that Christine was talking about with some of the blue economy work. We did start a blue economy club. We have an ecosystem for that. We have a green economy club. We have an ecosystem for that and a consortium of partners for that. And also two others, which are called the smart economy. We're working with smart cities and developing smart city projects around the world. I've been working on the Miami smart city projects the last 3 years. And also the love economy, which is really empathy, well-being, things like eco resorts and retreats and medicine and so on and so forth. So the last time that we got a chance to speak, we're talking about fund of funds and the opportunity to create top-down influence over to drive more social inclusion for diversity, particularly focused on emerging managers, right? And how we can maybe approach a subject like emerging managers to get more assets under management with these emerging managers. So in the example that, just to follow that thread, right, one way to do that I think is a unique approach here is working with some of the pension funds and other organizations that are already putting together events to match both fund managers that are emerging fund managers as well as allocators like CalPERS, CalSTRS, and some of these larger groups that represent pension funds, et cetera. But working to get more diversity onto the board of the pension funds in and of themselves. And this is more on the asset management side of the conversation. We have a broker-dealer aspect element. We have an asset manager, broker-dealer, the asset manager aspect of it. And then we have sort of this social media component, which is fairly new. I'm here in Tulum today. And we were just had a gathering of our second Earthshot conference and series where we're putting together thought leaders from all around the world looking to solve some of these critical issues. And then we hyper focus on one of the local issues, like here is helping the Mayans and looking at the water economy and the circularity of a place like Tulum to prevent things like sewage and water, et cetera. So we're looking at some of the solutions like this for that. But to come back to that, then you have something else, which is the academy, right? Just educating people on these subjects. So I'm going to touch on that blue economy to talk about top-down, bottom-up approach. But I'll go back to finishing really quick this thing on diversity and inclusion within asset management, where on one side, right, we have this academy to teach people how to launch investment funds or how to become a venture capitalist, a private equity investor, even just an independent sponsor to start buying businesses before you start a fund, right, as training wheels or starting an SBIC, et cetera. And this is the grassroots approach, right? This is sort of the level one grassroots approach layer to say, hey, you can do it. Here's some resources. Here's a path to do it. Here are the templates to do it. And then the top down is we're setting up these events with CalPERS, CalSTRS, and these other like large groups. A lot of that work is being done with the Hispanic Heritage Foundation, just to give you an example, and influencing the board of trustees, right? So, to really create this systematic impact in the shortest amount of time, you need to do both. You need to both, cultivate and groom the grassroots organizations, opportunities, projects, deals, fund managers, whatever it is that we're working on. And at the same time, top down, to make sure that people are ready to receive and acclimate and invest into, allocate into some of these fund managers at the right time. Right, so it's just a quick example of something that I think is pretty fun, Cooney, to share with the crowd as sort of like what's being done and how we're going about doing that. So so that's I'll take a pause there in case I don't know if there's any questions on that from the crowd. But I do want to just say, like, it's not enough to just be singularly focused. Sometimes either you're super niche, but you also need to figure out what's the ecosystem that you're working with to make sure that you have a flywheel that's really driving change. So in our case, being a merchant bank for the last 9 years, we're going on our 10-year anniversary. Okay, we need to really drive radical change to make this stuff happen. Pamela asked a question, which is, do you have an academy to teach this? Yes, absolutely. So what we've done is restructuring the organization to say, okay, let's think about a flywheel and how we can drive the most amount of impact, the most amount of awareness, things like today's conference, right? On what are ways to actually, what are green projects, or what is the knowledge base that should be approached in terms of Wall Street approaching green. And we also feel that, much like Pamela has been mentioning, and Christine Martini before us, the importance of the blue economy as blue maybe as a new green, right? With 80% of the world's Seaspiracy coming out, and so on and so forth. So right now, to answer Pamela's question, yes, we do have Academy. So we're looking at turning our merchant bank now into just an impact marketplace. This impact marketplace, you can go on and you can find full spectrum of capital for whatever you find most compelling, according to the SDGs or climatics or an asset type: cash, stocks, bonds, public equities, private equities, whatever the case may be, right? We have a product for you that would fit, whether it's through a broker dealer or whether it's through our asset manager, in a seamless way. But it's not just what we do with our money or where we're investing with, and it's not just where we're investing our money, but what we do with our money that's equally important, if not more important. Because sometimes there's this contradiction of a lot of this old paradigm between, hey, we can make our money in oil and gas and then we'll just give it away to philanthropy and sort of we did a good job, right? But that's not good enough, and that's really an oxymoron where you're having things cancel each other, and that's not where we need to be. We need to go beyond sustainability and towards regeneration, and to do that, we need full alignment. Sustainability is just sustaining the status quo as it is, and we cannot continue to do that because the status quo has led us not just to a global pandemic, but also to a global crisis beyond that. For not just, it's not just climate change, it's water, it's killing off of species, it's killing off of things that are pollinators, like the bees. It's just like a number of things. If people don't believe in climate change, hey, look, I'm not here to argue whether that's real or not, but I'm here to just point out, hey, what are the facts that are happening? What are the other things that are dying, the ecosystems that are dying? Here in the Yucatan, our coral reef is dying. A third almost of the Yucatan coral reef. The barrier reef that's here is the second largest reef after the Great Barrier Reef, and it needs to be restored. So people that are coming here during the pandemic are coming and they're living their lives and they're spending their money here. But every time that we spend and we come and spend time in places like Tulum, right, we're killing the coral reefs inadvertently. Maybe we don't even know that we're doing so, but that's just what we're doing with our money, right? It's a perfect example of, okay, well, we're consuming things that maybe are not the best. So just to rein it in a little bit, our idea is that on the impact market is not just to have the products, but also what we're consuming. So if anybody's looking for, hey, where do we get sustainable toothbrushes, right? One of our partners is really adamant about only using bamboo toothbrushes, no plastic, no anything that's bad for the environment. So, giving a care package to people that can make it easy for them to know, this is where I can buy clothes that's sustainable. This is where I can buy, toothbrushes, toothpaste, soap, whatever, like you're using for your everyday life and your everyday moment. That also makes it easy for you to stay in alignment. And again, this is a top-down allocation, bottom-up, what we're using our money for in our everyday life. Then you bring that into shedding the light on some of the projects that we're facing and that we're going around looking, like restoring the water, helping the Mayan communities, right? And then bringing cameras and bringing games into the equation to create content. So Seaspiracy just came out and it's created a huge ruckus. Because I remember like one of the first Earth series. But what do we do to engage our audiences? And everybody here, I'm preaching to the crowd here because all of you are here because you guys are like next level consciousness, your next level in living your life. You're going out of your way to see what you can do to make the world a little bit better with finance, right? So we're on that same page from that perspective. But what we need to do is more content that's engaging, that's fun, right? To put on YouTube, to put on LinkedIn, to put on Instagram, wherever, right? And even to take it a step further into the next generation, right? And put it into gaming. How can we gamify sustainability? How can we gamify preserving or regenerating the biosphere? Right? And so that's the whole purpose of the Impact TV series. and what we're doing, traveling around the world, going to the Amazon, here to the Yucatan Peninsula, looking at water, looking at forestry, looking at regenerative real estate, whatever the case may be, to build these thematics. And then lastly, to Pamela's point, going into the Impact Academy. So people said, hey, this is super interesting. Where can I learn more? How can I be engaged? Well, do you want to allocate? Do you want to donate into a donor advised fund philanthropically? Do you want to invest into a proper fund? Do you want to invest in a direct deal that's in one of the SDGs you care about? Then here you go straight to the marketplace. But if you want to learn more, here's the Academy. So we've launched this Academy. Everyone that's interested in putting up content is able to. The main idea is sort of 4 paths. One path for people that are onboarding to be deal makers, facilitators, to make things happen, right? Much like people that are in merchant banking like myself, we're facilitators. Then you have asset management route for people that want to launch an investment fund or an impact fund or something of this. How do you do something like that? Then you have ecopreneurs, right? People that just care about the environment. They want to know, how do I set up a business model canvas that's sustainable? We have a template for that. If you're interested, by the way, you can send me an email at silvio@logoscapital.io. And then focus on ecopreneurship. And then lastly, what if you're just an investor and you're looking for, like, okay, what's impact? What's a green bond? What's a blue bond? What's a social impact bond? How can I allocate and find public equities that are 100% for impact, not greenwashing stuff, right? Where, the highest standard above the minimum standards, right? We're talking about the highest. So I think that this sort of loop starts to come together, and that's really what creates a flywheel. And it's just a little bit of a perfect example of a top-down up approach that we're taking with the blue economy, with the green economy, with smart cities, with allocation into diversity and inclusion overall. So I'll take a pause there, take any other questions, but I know that, just to summarize what I've said, Impact Academy, Impact Marketplace, and Impact TV series and gaming, to just drive more engagement and other people and more knowledge and consciousness to what we're doing, and just make it really easy for people to get involved.
Thanks, Silvio. Certainly seems like you have a lot going on. I guess just as a first question, I'm curious, on one hand, you talk about sort of content and community building and education, basically, spreading the word on sustainability. So it's a lot of education, a lot of engagement. But then on the other hand, there's time spent actually executing deals, and getting financings done. So how do you think about that split of your time?
I think Cooney, that we need to be very, that's the one resource that can't be replicated, right? Physically, you get sick, you can heal. If you lose money, you can make money, but you can't, if you lose time, you can't make time back. And so the best way to do it is we're setting up 3 different divisions, right? We're saying our company is a holding company, and we have different CEOs for each one of these. In some cases, 2 CEOs for each. And for example, into the impact market, I'll probably be leading that effort because I have the licenses. So you need a lot of details, like the right financial mechanisms, the licenses to keep things compliant there. But let's say for the bonds, right, impact bonds that we're doing in green bonds, blue bonds, social impact, pay for performance, et cetera, we're going to appoint a CEO just for that business division. For the Impact Academy, we have a CEO just for that business division. For the Impact TV series, we have something just for media. We have somebody that's leading YouTube. We have somebody that'll be leading LinkedIn. We have somebody that'll be leading gaming, right? And so that's a little bit of how it's more of a finding the right talent to lead each one of these lanes and sort of taking obstacles out of their way and staying out of the way myself to make sure that these people can do what they need to do. So it fits the greater whole. But I think that it needs to be done in parallel. For example, the Impact TV series, it's a loss, right? There was just like $20,000 that were spent just to be able to produce content to put it out there. It's a feeling and a hope and a prayer to say, hey guys, let's try to do this the right way, because we're already making this magic happen. We're already going deep into the forest. We're already going deep into the oceans, right? Talking about due diligence and on the ground work and deep work. Literally, it's being done. So it's just like showing a little bit of that magic. They say, give me a deal, I'll take a look, but tell me a story, right? And that's a whole different change in terms of how we can drive allocation into real impact, showing them the magic. And I think that that's a little bit of that. It might, right now, it's just a lost lead. because we just feel that it's important for people to see the work that's being done and just get inspired about the work that people in impact investment are doing, because it's not your your traditional Wall Street work, right? It's coming from a place of the heart, and from the heart approaching all the situations, all the deals, all the communities that we're involved with, and learning more about them to see how we can contribute, and then seeing how we can create that engagement, not just for me, but again, moving myself out of the way, Kuni, to say I know that I'm limited on my own time and I can't split my own time. So let me just bring as many people around me, right, in the time that I'm already doing this, so I don't have to repeat it over and over and over again. And that allows us the scalability that we need to put it plug and play into the academy, plug and play into the deal marketplace, and move out of the way.
Gotcha. Makes sense. I got an audience question here. They're looking for an example. So can you give us a specific example of a project that got investment and the board of trustees that decided to invest in it? Can you talk a bit about the process and some of the main results?
So this is on the allocation into, let's say, emerging fund managers, I'm assuming.
Sure, either that or a specific project that got investment.
Yeah, so if we're going through the trustees, I think that is there's a female-led fund. So sure, I'll give you an example. Hispanic Heritage Foundation puts together this event called Latinos on Fast Track. It's not just for Latinos. They invite other diverse fund managers to the table, and because of compliance, we need to be very careful, right? I'm like inclusion guy number one, but to keep things compliant, you need to be very careful to not, do public solicitation and not be able to speak publicly. So some events need to be private. So having the right setting for some of these conversations is really key, right? Having the right setting, again, is super key. And how you go about setting up that conversation in the right context that's compliant and that's also efficient is super key. So that's step one. The second thing was say, hey, let's have, and it's also an organic relationship, not to pitch opportunities. Like, I think that's kind of a little bit inorganic. Some of the approach has been who are asset allocators that care about this thing, and who are the asset managers that are actively looking for this thing, and how do we build a natural relationship between these two? How do we build, if you are a, emerging Latina in finance, is there a trustee that we can connect you with that is also an emerging Latina in finance to give you some guidance and mentorship, and for you to be able to speak candidly with and give you candid feedback on, for the relationship to evolve. And for those of you in the audience and would like a freebie, one of the groups that would be willing to consider an allocation into a first-time manager or an emerging manager that's diverse is I want to say the Treasury of Illinois. The state of Illinois, I think the Treasury of the state of Illinois, or the CIO for Illinois, which is also led by Latino. And so, in the conference, you basically have these conversations, and then people take them offline. It's all about follow up, and how we can do that systematically. And then ultimately that led to an allocation into first time a female fund manager out of Chicago. So that's one example.
Great. I guess we got about a minute. So this question can lead to a whole hour conversation. But have you seen engagement change the way people behave? And maybe you can just give us one tip for people on the line. What can we change in our daily lives today that's going to make a difference in the world and advance sustainability?
I would say stay true to your virtues, stay true to your principles, and don't take anything that's less than that. Do not accept it if it's an investment. Do not accept it if it's a product that you're buying. Do not accept it if it's service or people that you're around, right? Having this right heart set, the right soul set, the right mindset in the ways that you're approaching these things is really key, and not settling for less than is what's really integral of creating a regenerative planet, right? Hold back if it's a plastic item. Hold back. You can probably find something that's a little bit better. Just be a little patient. Look a little harder, right? And you'll find something. And if you have any questions, you can always reach me at Silvio at logoscapital.io. That's logoscapital.io. And we'd be glad to point you in the right direction. Again, thanks, Cooney, for having me, Peter, and for all the amazing attendees here today that I look forward to continuing to learn from.
Yeah, thanks, Silvio. Good luck in the year ahead.
Thank you.